Good evening. Thank you for joining us on New England Republicans, the party that's looking out for you. Tonight's show is hosted by me, Bill Vogel, chairman of the New England Republican Town Committee, and we have a number of things to talk about tonight, but I guess just to observe the weather a little bit. We can't pass up an opportunity to do that. It's rainy, foggy, and cool outside, and I guess it sort of confirms the old adage that April showers bring May flowers. So I guess we'll just have to tolerate it for a couple more weeks, and maybe it'll get good. So we're all hoping and standing by. But at any rate, just wanted to get into the substance of what I want to talk about tonight. I just still can't believe that the mayor would come forward with a 12% tax increase. I mean, how much more can the people of New London take? It's like who's looking out for the taxpayers? It's not the mayor. Is it the city council? I'm not so sure. I haven't seen any action by the city council yet that makes me think that they're going to try to control this budget and get the taxes down to, some reasonable number. I mean, a reasonable number would be like 2%, certainly under 5%, but 12% on top of all the tax increases that we've had from Mayor Financio since the last three budgets that he's done. They've increased taxes over 20%. I mean, the mayor claims that he's managing the fiscal, the fiscal side of the municipality. Well, guess what? I mean, I think just about anybody could manage the fiscal side of the municipality if you are going to increase taxes 20%. I mean, it's getting to be ridiculous. And like I said, I'm not sure the city council is going to really be any help on this one. I've read the articles about what they've been reviewing and how they've been reviewing it, and I haven't seen anything that makes me think they're going to, really cut back. And then I've read several places where the city councilors have said, oh, they don't want to touch the education budget. It's so important. Education is so important. That's just BS. Education's important, but education doesn't need countless amounts of money. For the Board of Ed budget to go up 6% is just in the face of the taxpayer. It's really and the explanation for it is well, it's an investment in our future. Well, that's garbage. How many times have you heard that kind of crap from politicians, particularly progressive liberals, but not always. We sometimes have folks that say, oh yeah, it's an investment in the future. Well, education's always an investment in the future. Education is learning, and learning doesn't necessarily cost 6% more every year. I mean, it's ridiculous. And one of the main reasons why they say they're increasing their budget is because they're getting a lot more students in. Well, they're getting a lot more students in because they have all the magnet school stuff going on. The magnet schools are supposed to be a plus for New London in terms of cost. We're supposed to get money back from the state for that. So we'll pick up a phone call here. Hello, caller, you're New London Republicans.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Very good. Is this Ray?
Yeah.
Hi, Ray.
You know why I call?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like you.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
No guest tonight?
No guest tonight.
I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
Who's on tonight? You and who else?
Oh, I don't know who else comes on after me. I think the lot people come on after me.
Oh, yeah. So, do you have a good day?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't like the weather much, but what are you going to do?
Stayed home.
You're right.
You stayed home.
Is that what you did?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, well, thanks for calling in, Ray.
Bye.
Okay, bye now. But like I'm saying, I'm talking about the city council now, and I'm talking about education, and I'm talking about this idea that no money can be too much for education, that it's an investment in the future. I mean, I've heard that my whole life, and there's no excuse for education to go up, 6%. I mean, that's really a ridiculous number, and especially given that the reason is for magnet school kids coming in. And like I said, we're supposed to get money from the state for magnet school kids. That's supposed to be a net plus for us. And, these buildings and everything that they're doing in terms of, building more magnet schools and stuff like that. That's all under the bonding. That's not part of the 6%. The 6% is strictly for everyday operations. And the reasons they gave are 1% for teachers' raise, which, okay, that's reasonable. I don't necessarily see how anybody could complain about that necessarily. And then there's some pension increases, but that's not going to be a huge part of it. And then the other reason is like 300 plus students coming in, additional students. Well, that could be a reason if they weren't magnet school kids coming in. And the magnet school kids should offset any in-district kids that are coming in. So I'm not, this idea of we can't touch education and that it's just, it's such an investment in the future. I just can't get over some of the rationale that people use. I haven't heard a good reason yet why they need 6%. I haven't seen it broken down. I did ask the superintendent for a breakdown. He said he'd give it to me. He has not done that, which I think is disappointing because, like you, I try to, if I say I'm going to do something, I try to do it, and clearly he has that information. So it's really upsetting. The municipal side going up 6%. God knows, maybe it's tied into the insurance cost and the settlements and all the other mismanagement that we've had for the last 3 years, 4 years, going on 4 years now. But again, that just you just can't keep doing that to people. Now, one of the results of that is that one, people can't afford to give the city more money. Two, if they have a choice, they're probably going to, use their legs to walk away. The only thing keeping a lot of people in the city is that they can't, because the prices are down so much because of the taxes, they can't sell their house for what it would cost them to buy a house someplace else that's, the same size or whatever. So it's really a catch-22 with this, with these taxes, and it really goes back to who we elected, and God knows we really need to try to come up with some strong candidates this next election in November that'll provide good leadership as mayor and in good fiscal restraint as a city council. And we need Board of Ed people that don't think that these guys on the Board of Ed, they think it's okay for 6%. That's I can't get over why that is an acceptable situation for them when they're trying to look out for the interest of the citizens of New London. I mean, it's just criminal. But anyway, having said that, well, the other thing too is why we're talking about taxes, and we'll get into some of the details. But the governor's out there too. He put out a budget. It was a poorly done budget. It was supposedly not going to raise taxes, but it turns out to be like $50 million more than what the revenue coming in would be. So you'd have to cut back on it somehow. And then he just dumps it on the legislature. And the legislature, being that good liberal Democrats, they can't find anything to cut because you can't cut this social program, you can't cut that social program, you can't, this constituency is going to be hurt. BS. The person that's getting hurt is the taxpayer. It's really high time these guys stop thinking about all these little special interests that, Johnny's not going to get his little goodie. I don't know. It really is high time. Plus, we need to cut back on the amount of employees we have in this state. I mean, my God, since the income tax came in 20 years ago, we got 3 times the number of employees that we had before. How did we get along for the last couple centuries without the income tax and without all this bureaucracy that we have now? So again, it just doesn't. They're not looking out for the taxpayer. The other thing that you think about is that it's kind of interesting. About half of the money coming into the city comes from the state and from the federal government, and so the taxpayers are picking up half, and the government's picking up half. Well, interestingly enough, the part that the government pays isn't going up 6%, it's going up 0%. People were glad, were really relieved that the governor didn't cut aid to municipalities and that the governor didn't cut ECS funding for the schools. So there you are. So why is it okay if the feds and the state are not going to raise any of their contributions, that it's okay to raise the budget so that the taxpayer has to pick up the entire difference? I mean, I don't get it. Where's the restraint? Where's the conscience? Where's the, I can understand Finenzio. Remember, he has no experience. He came into the job, basically as an empty suit, and so he keeps making mistakes over and over again. He picks people that don't know what they're doing to fill jobs, and then wonders why he has all these accidents and high insurance costs. It's just, I guess if you put a rookie in there, you're going to get rookie mistakes, and that's kind of what we're seeing. Lots of rookie mistakes. And anyway, let's march along here. We have some specifics to cover with you on the tax stuff. One of the articles that was pretty good is Finenzio. It's written by David Collins again. Sometimes he hits a home run, and then sometimes he strikes out. This is one of the times he hit a home run. He says, you have to wonder if when Mayor Darrell Finenzio was preparing his State of the City address, he pictured himself looking out at a vast crowd, all with hands up in the air, calling out to him, tax me more, please. That's the way it seems, as he presented in the address a budget with a whopping 12.5% tax increase. It was odd anyway, a tax gouging proposed by a candidate in the midst of a campaign. After all, he is running for re-election. This is a tax gouging proposed by a candidate in the midst of a campaign, he says again. It's also not a big proposed tax increase out of the blue. It is on top of a budget last year that raised taxes to support a 7.8, about an 8% increase in spending. Voters also last year approved new bond issues that were in part sold as measures to finally put the city back on sound fiscal footing. The only thing more surprising about the mayor's bold grab for taxpayers' wallets was the muted response from the only other candidate in the race. He's referring to Mike Passero. City Councilor Mike Passero seemed to miss a perfect opportunity to attack his tax-loving opponent in the mayoral race. Instead, in response to a reporter's question after the address, he used cautious words like skeptical, scrutinize, and very close look. And cutting through the budget fog won't be easy for the council when you have the mayor's political finance director, they call it, he said, politics, well, just say political, politicalized finance director is in his unhelpful mode. His default when answering questions from the council members as they try to understand the budget. Usually he says he doesn't know where he's going to go find out, and then you never know. The mayor is paying for political advice in the campaign. He's got a consultant. And you have to wonder whether the political consultants told him asking for a huge tax increase during the campaign would be a good idea. But anyway, I wonder if the political strategy would be to write off tax-paying homeowners in counting votes. After all, New London has a fair number of residents who rent and don't own, people who would not likely feel the immediate pain of a big tax increase. Finenzio reversed course and got back into the mayor's race right after the fall election, in which he campaigned hard to get out the vote for a big budget for big budget questions that succeeded. Could he have decided then that you don't really need taxpayers in New London when you're counting votes? This is, after all, a mayor who went up the mountain before another election to solicit votes from non-taxpayer students at Connecticut College. So Collins has a pretty good article there talking about what we've just been talking about. And then one of the things that hasn't made the paper, and I don't know why, is the fact that Finenzio doesn't want to have a referendum, a separate election, a separate referendum. What he wants to do is move the referendum, let's say if let's say there's a petition, as there should be, if this budget goes through. It's two ordinances, one for the city budget and one for the Board of Ed budget. When those ordinances are passed, signed by the mayor, then people can petition them. If they get the required number of signatures, they submit it to the city council. The council accepts the petitions, and then the council should vote to have a referendum in, let's say, August. What Financio wants to do is do what he did last year and put it off to November. And by November, it's a moot point because you've already spent a good chunk of the year's budget that starts in July. You have July, August, September, or October. So you have a bunch of months already spent. So it's really disingenuous. And he really needs to be hammered for that, because if he really goes through with that, and the council, I mean, I can't believe the council would repeat that mistake again, but that would be just such a in-your-face to the taxpayers of New London. I mean, it would be just really in your face. So let's hope they don't do that as they did last year, because that will, that's just disingenuous to the max. So anyway, and I'm surprised, like I say, that we haven't read about that in the paper. There ought to be an editorial in the day about that, and everybody that has an opportunity ought to be screaming about it, because it really is wrong. Okay, let's see. Some of the departments, I was saying to you, some of the articles that I've been reading say, in terms of, these are for City Council Finance Committee review. In terms of total dollar amounts, the 8 budgets reviewed Thursday, that's this last Thursday, by the committee represent 8 of the 9 smallest department budgets, a total of 2.8% of the full city budget. Last Thursday, when the committee poured over heavy hitters like the education, police, fire, and public works budgets, it scrutinized 73% of the total city budget in one night. Does that give you any confidence that they're going to do anything about this budget? The general government proposal is 6% more than the current year. We know about that. Okay. See if we got anything important in here. Well, this is interesting. Under the proposed budget, Finanzio's salary would remain $86,000 a year, and salaries of his chief administrative officer and executive assistant would remain $52,000 and $38,000. However, he is budgeting $100,000 annual salary for the office of chief administrative officer, and the excuse for that is it would include funding for that position in this budget in case whoever's elected mayor in November wanted to hire an experienced city manager to fill the chief administrative officer position. But apparently what he's saying, on the other hand, that the current chief administrative officer would still get $52,000 and his executive assistant $38,000. So it's a little bit confusing there. So it sounds like he's almost double budgeting, $100,000 for a chief administrative officer on top of $52,000 for a chief administrative officer. Okay. Then we have the previous Thursday. The council acknowledged that the increase in the education budget is substantial, but those who spoke said they were in favor of fulfilling the Board of Education request. This is not the time to be cutting education off at the knees. This is the time to be stepping up to the plate and doing the right thing. I don't think the proposal as presented is unreasonable. It's expensive, but the proof will be in the results. I think we will see our community more responsive to education when we start seeing positive results, and I am very confident we will start seeing those positive results. Hello, caller. You're on New London Republicans.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
I had a couple of questions. I'd like to know what is the slate going to look like for from the Republican Party? because I know currently you have Marty Olson that's on city council. Is he going to be on the slate this year coming up with the election?
Would you mind saying your question again? Is Marty Olson going to what?
Is the Republican Party going to put Marty Olson on the slate this year?
Oh, well, we haven't finished. I can't answer that exactly. I mean, Marty's been on the city council. He's a Republican. He's the only Republican on there. And I, for one, would like to see him run again. But it's not up to me. It's up to the town committee when they vote in July.
Oh, okay. Because, it was really sad the last time when the election went on where he wasn't on there. And I'm thinking, wow, this gentleman been on the city council, was our mayor for one time, and just that's just a feather in the cap for the Republican Party. So I just hope that when you guys looking and the town committee, when you guys voting, just looking at who actually had the opportunity to win, and it's the Republican. So that's just my take on everything. I just wanted to share that with you tonight. I hope you have a good evening, and thank you for going through the budget. I really appreciate that. I'm just listening and just making note of some of the things that I didn't realize just with when you had shared about the administrative assistant, and you said, well, maybe it looked like it's double budget. So I'm going to look at that budget a little bit closer, because I am concerned about just our mill rate in our area. But I really like the fact that you mentioned this is not the time to shortchange education, because education is very important for our youth. So you have a good evening, and thank you for answering my question.
Thank you. Thank you, caller. Yeah, let's see, what I was doing is just covering some of the things that what upset me was, one of the counselors says, this is not a time to be cutting education off at the knees, da-da-da-da. It's expensive, but the proof will be in the results. I think we will see our community more responsive to education when we start seeing positive results, and I'm very confident we will start seeing positive results. And then one of the board members, Rob Frank, said Thursday, the admittedly large increase this year, this is a board member, the admittedly large increase this year would allow the school system to continue its transformation into the state's only all-magnet schools district and become a high-performing system. That is, I can't believe that somebody would say that. To summarize it that way doesn't address the increase at all. The fact that we're moving to magnet schools has been bonded at over $180 million, $160 million? $160 million has already been put aside for building magnet schools and making the magnet schools. That's bonding. That's money that the city's borrowed, that the expectation is the state will refund us a big percentage of that. But to sit there and say that the 6% increase in the board budget this year, which is strictly for operating expenses, is part of that, really is really upsetting. And then for people to say that it's an investment in the future, of course it's an investment in the future, but what's 6% have to do with it? What if it's 2%? Isn't that an investment in the future? If it's 0%, isn't that an investment in pursuit? We're already spending over $40 million on education. How much more money do people want us to spend on education? If you divide the number of students into what the board budget is, you're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000 per student to educate per each student. It's just getting to be ridiculous. Especially when you think about, a lot of people send their kids to St. Joe's, for example, where there's an old building with old wood, and guess what? They probably learn just as well there as they do at one of these palatial public school buildings that we put millions and millions of dollars into. So I'm really disheartened by this. People defending the Board of Ed budget have done such a poor job that it really just irks me, because they aren't saying, well, this costs this much and this costs that much and da-da-da. Nobody's saying that. They're saying stuff like, this is an investment in the future. Show me how. I'd like to know. Why is this an investment? Why do I need to invest 6% more than I did last year? What the heck is going on here? And then, of course, the municipal budget, you don't see anything hardly on that either. I mean, they looked over the big hitter budget items. 73% of the budget was the education, fire, public work, or not fire, and police, and they spend one night looking at it. I don't know. I don't have any faith that this will really get done very well. Let's see. We'll just jump into. Let's see. We got a little bit more here. See if there's anything new here. Not too much. In the fire department, they're complaining about their training funds. It does sound like, I'm not sure what's going on with the fire department. We are a 67-man department. That's the fire department, 67 men. And our training budget is $10,000, the chief said. I can't do anything with training budget of $10,000. We desperately need training to keep us up to date with modern technology as it changes. Officer development is also very important, and we haven't been able to address that issue. Well, again, why? If we really need the money, let's find. It's a matter of priorities. I mean, when most companies and most people set up a budget, they know how much money they got coming in, and then they make decisions based on the priorities. And so if you have a high priority like public safety, fire and police, you go in that direction. Then the other things take, this idea of the library doubling the budget. I mean, I saw people up there cheering for the library, and, I'm all for libraries, don't get me wrong. I think they're good, but they're not fantastic anymore. To be honest with you, very few people use libraries anymore, and there's a reason for that. Very few people use libraries because they can go online and get most of the information that they need. I mean, why would you need to go to the library? I mean, ask yourself, why do I need to go to the library? Ask yourself, when's the last time I went to the library? So I don't want us to not have a library, but I don't see why we needed to double the budget. And then the idea is well, we're going to make sure that these pre-K, these toddlers, that I guess from 0 to 4, because 5 is pre-K, kindergarten's 5, and then first grade 6 years old. So you're talking 0 to 4 years old that you're going to teach to read. You're going to prepare them to read with our library. And the idea is, well, maybe we'll go to child care centers, bring books to child care centers and read to the kids there or something. I don't know. That seems like as practical a solution as, I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, I guess trying to sell doubling the library for that kind of a reason just doesn't make any sense to me. But, that's what the mayor, I guess, thought that was going to be a vote getter for him. So there he goes for it. And I just want to wait and see if the city council really goes along with it. Okay, let's see what else we got here. I think that pretty covers it. Okay. Okay, now we're moving on to Fort Trumbull. Okay, this is another, this is a Paul Chenier article. He directs the editorials for the Day newspaper, and he's making fun of Finenzio to a certain degree. He says, much has happened since I wrote 2 months ago that the future of Fort Trumbull area needed to be part of the debate in the New London's mayor race. Most remarkable is how drastically Mayor Darrell Justin Finenzio has shifted his position since then, and in doing so, limited the ability of his future opponent in the Democrat primary to offer an alternative vision. When I wrote that column in early February, Finenzio was still on a mission to try to effectively dissolve the city's development agency and move control of the development effort to his and future city administrations. Finenzio also vowed that under his watch, none of the parcels seized through eminent domain 10 years ago via a landmark 5-4 Supreme Court ruling would ever see any private development. He said he would entertain only some public use in keeping with the original spirit of eminent domain. The mayor has given up on the effort to muscle the Renaissance City Development Association, successor to NLDC, out of the picture. The Planning and Zoning Commission issued a negative finding on his plan to transfer control of the Fort Trumbull parcels to the city government, the majority in the 5-2 decision saying they saw no advantage. This means Finenzio would need a supermajority of 5 votes to get his plan approved by the city council. He has 4 votes. Among those blocking approval is his opponent for the Democrat nomination, Councilor Michael Passero. Finenzio has also given up on his fight to block development on the parcels taken through eminent domain. It is possible a project would surface this year, he said. I pledge, and then it's a quote here, I pledge to work with a Renaissance City Development Association and the council to meet meaningful development move forward without delay, Finenzio said Tuesday at his State of the City address. Let us move on. So anyway, the point really being is that, just a couple months ago he had an entirely different vision. All of a sudden now it's all changed and he's going in a different direction. So it kind of negates that issue because I think he's just basically taken the Passero position. It says, as for the election, with Finenzio now on board with development agency, Passero loses a potential issue as the pro-Fort Trumbull development candidate, a calculation that perhaps made the mayor's reversal not so quite as tough as he maintains. In other words, he said it was a tough decision to change his mind. Well, it doesn't sound like it's that tough. And then we got a little bit more about Fort Trumbull here. Let's see. Oh, this is a David Collins article on Fort Trumbull. Oh, it's in today's paper. So it says, remember, this is David Collins now. Remember not so long ago when Mayor Darrell Justin Finenzio's big idea for Fort Trumbull included a proposed neighborhood of environmentally spare micro houses or a water desalination plant. I know, New London owns a reservoir. Why in the world would it build a fabulous, expensive water-making plant? But practicality has never stopped the mayor. These days, Mayor Finenzio is obsessing over making a memorial parklet out of the lot where Suzette Kilo's pink house used to stand before it was snatched in an eminent domain, taking that became a national history. I don't think a parklet across the street from a major state park makes any more sense than micro houses in a region where land is not scarce. I doubt it would even make Kilo feel it any better. I understand that it will be hard to say no to the developer, AR Building Company, who is proposing a new sprawl of apartments, buildings, 80 units in the first phase and 80 units in a subsequent phase. And he just goes on to say, AR Building, which is the name of the company, is a solid Pennsylvania-based company that seems to have found its groove in developing and managing big apartment complexes. This would be their first venture in Connecticut, but their work is all over the South and the Mid-Atlantic states. And basically what Collins goes on about Fort Trumbull development is that he thinks it should be somehow urbanized, with maybe stores on the bottom and apartments in the tops of the building. But, but my theory, let's see what make it. Hello, caller, I'm sorry to hold you up. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Bill.
Hi.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
How is it that someone running for re-election is raising taxes? I never heard of such a thing.
No, nobody else
Have
has
you?
either.
I find that very strange.
It is. It really is. And I think the reason he's doing it is that when he got those 5 questions passed last year, where basically it was a large tax increase then and the bonding ordinances, when he got those passed, he got the idea that, gee, the large numbers of voters in New London don't really care about taxes. And the conclusion there is a flawed one, because I don't think people really knew what they were voting for. But even still, he does have a point there. There are a number of people that don't pay taxes directly, so they don't necessarily appreciate the fact that, hey, my taxes are going up. That means my rent will go up next year to make up for it.
Yeah, but who in their right mind votes for higher taxes?
I don't know. They did last year. Last year, people.
I know, but I think those were mostly renters.
Well, I know, but the mayor wants to do the referendum in November again at the general election. So he's thinking that, well, he'll get lots of people out that are, quote, renters.
Well, according to the figures, there were 5,000 people that voted.
Yeah.
And 2,000 voted yes, 1,500 voted no. What happened to the other 15? They didn't vote on the questions? They probably didn't turn the page.
You're probably right. It was very confusing.
Yeah.
I mean, you could read those questions and you wouldn't have had any idea what it was really about for most of them. Mm-hmm. So let's hope it doesn't happen that way.
We're in a mess here. We just can't afford this anymore.
Well, you're absolutely
People
right.
need to, the taxpayers need to wake up.
They absolutely
Talking about
do.
property
I know.
owners.
Well, what happens, like you just said, is every time he raises taxes, the value of your house goes down. Mm-hmm. Any property you own in New London, when they raise taxes, the value of that property goes down just automatically. I mean, it's sure as day follows night.
That's true. Another point to make, I'm not for rentals down at the fort.
I agree with you. Why are we putting rentals down there?
We don't need rentals.
We need owner-occupied properties in New
Exactly.
London.
And no abatements for 5 or 10 years. Where's the tax money?
Yeah, exactly. And you can be sure they'll be asking for an abatement soon. And guess what? They get the land, the builder gets the land for free.
For free. Oh,
And, and he's going to turn around, and I bet you, dollars to donuts, he's going to ask for tax abatements.
Yep. And
It's
we'll
crazy.
be foolish enough to give it to them.
Boy, I'll tell you, with the council we have right now, it wouldn't surprise me to see a 4-3 vote to give them the abatements.
Well, I don't see, yes, I understand that. I don't see how, in good conscience, they can vote for this budget.
I don't either, but I don't hear any of them saying they're not. And I do see some of them saying, "Oh yeah, we can't cut this. We can't cut the Board of Ed budget." Why, I don't know. I mean,
Well, that's another thing. I mean, I'm all for kids getting an education, but
Right.
how much can we afford?
yeah. I mean, how much is enough?
Maybe the state needs to just take over the school system and let them foot the bill.
At this point, that sounds good.
I mean, they want the all-magnet school, and maybe they should think about that.
Yeah, the all magnet's supposed to be bring money into the city, not cause us as taxpayers to pay more.
Right.
It's really. I mean, I've never seen I've never seen anything so out of control as what we
Me
have
either.
right now.
Me either. Well, okay, keep the faith.
Hey, thank you very much.
Okay, Bill. Good
Bye
night.
now. Okay, well, the caller just pointed out exactly what I was going to point out on Fort Trumbull. Is I don't know why we're looking at more rental property in New London. I mean, the problem with rental properties, you get a lot of people in that are renters, and what happens is they have a lease, and their lease is like for a year, 2 years, or whatever, and they don't really recognize that if the taxes are going up, that they're going to end up paying more rent the next time they renew their lease. And so they tend not to, because they're not paying taxes directly, they tend not to pay attention to it. And as a result, you have politicians like Mayor Finenzio who thinks he can brush by a 12% tax increase. And of course, this is another goodie we'll get to in a little bit if we have time, is one of the things Finenzio wants to have done, and it just all adds up to the disingenuous approach, because the only thing that let's say renters are going to feel in terms of higher taxes is they're going to see it on their property tax for their car. So they're going to end up paying a lot more tax on their car than they would have if they lived somewhere else. And so, of course, what the mayor wants to do is he wants to have it so that the state equalizes car taxes throughout the state. So everybody pays the same number of mills for their car, and then presumably the state will collect that money and then turn it back to the municipalities. But guess what? Once the state gets their hands on that money, how much they give back and to whom and how they want to redistribute it and all that kind of stuff, it's crazy. I don't know. The advantage to New London would be is that we would pay a lower tax on our cars, most likely, in a system like that. But it's kind of funny that the mayor wants it, I don't think so much to save us taxpayers any money, but he wants it so that the renter doesn't feel the pain of the increased taxes on his car. So anyway, but that's just an aside for you. That's ongoing right now. We might get to that a little bit later. Okay, well, we talked about the David Collins article covered the ridiculousness of the Kilo project, having the little Kilo Park next to the great big Fort Trumbull Park. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Oh, I guess the point of this article is it's a little different than that. The point of this article is that the mayor gets up on his Monday speech, and I guess that was a week ago. I guess it was Monday. And he gets up and he says that he's agreed with the NLDC, or the Renaissance City Development Association, that he's going to have this little park. He's got an agreement. And this is so typical of this mayor. Then the president of the Renaissance City Development Association turns around and says, "Are you crazy? We never agreed to that." And so let me read you some of the words on this thing. It just rings out of incompetence. I mean, these are rookie errors. I mean, a person that has an experienced person doesn't make these kind of errors normally. I mean, yeah, we all make mistakes, but we don't make them one after another. This is a real rookie error. Listen to this. The plan to set aside the vacant parcel of land at the corner of Trumbull and East Streets, where Suzette Kilo, a little pink house, once stood as a permanent public park, was announced in haste, the head of the City Development Agency said, and appears to be temporarily on hold. In his State of the City address last week, Mayor Darrell Justin Finenzio announced that he and the Renaissance City Development Association had reached an agreement that would remove Kilo's former property from consideration of any future development and have it remain silent testimony of those residents whose homes in Fort Trumbull neighborhood were taken by the city's use of eminent domain powers more than a decade ago. But the RCDA President Linda Mariani said Finenzio's announcement was premature and caught the RCDA members off guard. The City Council was asked to ratify at its meeting. The City Council was asked to ratify the agreement at its meeting Monday night, but the matter was tabled indefinitely without discussion. And then Mariani says, "You have put me," she's saying this to the mayor, "you have put me in a very embarrassing position with the board of directors, none of whom had knowledge of these discussions until reading your announcement in the newspaper," she wrote Friday in an email to Finenzio. If reaching common ground on your proposal was your goal, this has not helped matters. So, I mean, so here he's announcing that. What's one of his big things on his State of the City speech, and it turns out to be, bogus. I mean, how do you make a mistake like that? I don't know. I'm baffled. I don't know why you would come forward and say something like that unless you knew you had it in the bag. But anyway, then we have another article that's kind of interesting. It's it's another one, only a New London one. The PCRC, the Police Community Relations Commission. Let's see if I got that right. Yeah, the Police Community Relations Commission. It's editorial in the paper that says, what New London has now, however, the Police Community Relations Commission is a mess. We don't mean this as a criticism of those who volunteer to serve. Rather, the problems are the result of a lack of vision about what the PCRC is supposed to be and an absence of direction about what it is supposed to accomplish. The city should scrap PCRC, but only when something better is. This is the deal where you had this lady, Chris Wright, W-R-A-I-G-H-T, who came out and said really nasty things. She said, this is part of the quote here, teach your majority white force to view New London's black and brown residents as human beings, not thugs, she wrote, adding that the department leadership should train your officers not to kill black people. Now, this is a lady that they just voted to be president of the Police Community Relations Committee. Now, how good do you think relations are going to be with an idiot like that? I mean, it doesn't get any stupider than that. Now, the woman has a right to say what she wants to say, okay? It's free speech, and I agree that she shouldn't be kicked off the commission, but she surely should not have been elected the president. And that means that the majority of people on that commission voted her in as the president, and then, of course, I don't know if they should be. Then, of course, the president of the union, the police union, says, hey, you vote her in, we're out of here. So the police commission, the police union is not going to participate with the Police Community Relations Commission. So, I mean, how do you get that screwed up? I mean, who were the idiots that voted that lady in as the president? I mean, that was like in your face to the police because the police had already asked for her to be removed for saying such stupid stuff. And yet they turn around and vote for her to be the president of the commission. So again, we have another totally dysfunctional organization in New London, which is really a shame because you do need to have a good police community relations commission because you want to make sure that people have a place to go to if they have a complaint about the police. And this is supposed to be an independent group that can take some action to make sure that something inappropriate doesn't happen to a citizen caused by the police in some way. So we do need a good group there, but what they got now is like crazy. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Well, another great thing that's, we're running out of time here, so we got about 5 minutes. No surprise, the insurance is going way up. New London's insurance is going way up because they've had so many problems under Mayor Finenzio. And so now the Connecticut Interlocal Risk Management Agency, which is the insurance company, presented the city with two options for its liability and auto insurance policy. Accept either a 22% increase from roughly $1.1 million to $1.34 million in the policy's premium and a 100% increase from $250,000 to $500,000 in its per claim deductible, or a $1 million premium and a $1 million deductible. So I mean, it's you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. I mean, the city cannot, the city having insurance like this is almost like not having insurance. It means that if you have a $500,000 deductible, you're in big trouble. That means that anybody that hurts themselves or any kind of thing that happens in the city where you need insurance, the insurance is not going to be there. It's like Obamacare. You'll never be able to get to satisfy the deductible, and And so the city basically is almost not insured, except for maybe, you know, some horrific thing. But the cost is astronomical. I mean, you know, you're talking an increase at 22% and then doubling of the deductible, or you go with just a catastrophe type insurance where you pay $1 million premium and you have $1 million deductible. They go on to say the 900% increase in the deductible, which the finance director, Jeff Smith, at the time said effectively left the city uninsured except for catastrophic losses, was likely spurred by a high number of claims with potential losses over the last 3 years. Thank you, Mayor Finenzio. The insurance company agreed to lower the city's deductible from $500,000 to $250,000 when Grills was hired. He's the risk manager, with the expectation that the city was working to institute an effective risk management strategy and will work towards reducing losses. Then they go on to say, it seems to me, and this is the risk management guy, Gills, G-I-L-L-S, it seems to me that there has got to be something that didn't happen that they are unhappy with us about, and I'm wondering if it's leadership in the departments, because that hasn't changed. Oh, this is Mike Passero said that. I'll just read it again. It seems to me that there has got to be something that didn't happen that they are unhappy with us about, and I'm wondering if it is a leadership in the departments, because that hasn't changed, Councilor Mike Passero said to Gills. So anyway, I guess Gills is going to continue trying to get the insurance company to back off a bit, but you know, good luck. We certainly wish him good luck, because that's costing us a lot of money. Okay, now we had another little interesting thing. Let me see where it is here. Adam Spracacci wrote an op-ed in the paper where he basically says this was Finenzio had, in his State of the City, had gone back and blamed the past councils for just about everything. Finenzio overlooks his role in creating the past New London deficit. This is Adam Spracacci. New London Mayor Darrell Finenzio, another massive tax increase. Okay, well, let's see. New London Mayor Darrell Finenzio is again peddling the same fabricated story of evil city councilors manipulating budgets to ensure re-election. In his 2015 State of the City address, Finenzio once more accused a prior council of nefariously manipulating the 2011-2012 budget. He even included, after decades of deficit spending, really, which of course is ridiculous. We haven't had decades of deficit spending, otherwise we'd be bankrupt. Granted, so Spracacci goes through and points out all the stuff the mayor did, including the big settlements with all the people that he got rid of. He had big severance settlements. He fixed up his offices. He had the police captains go, the deputy chief go, and on it goes. So, it's just a number of things that Finenzio did that brought that budget $3.7 million over. But then, interesting enough, this was on April 7th. Then today, April 10th, 3 days later, it's in the paper already, Laura Natush has a reply to Adam Spracacci, and it's titled, Spracacci Helped Create New London Debt. And she goes through a bunch of BS, and it's really, really hard. Spracacci did a good job of laying this thing out, and I don't have time to read it all, but she goes through with a bunch of generalities and cherry picks a bunch of issues, and then at the end says, it's disheartening after all this time and after having had it confirmed by rating agencies and auditors, Spracacci still can't acknowledge his mistakes or the fact that Mayor Finenzio has turned New London's finances around. Mayor Finenzio has not turned New London finances around because he's killed the taxpayer. Yeah, maybe he's brought his taxes up 20%, and he's still looking for, it's unbelievable. It's just perplexing to have somebody like Laura Natush say something like that. Well, anyway, we didn't get too far into the agenda, but we'll be back next week. Thank you very much.